Why do you wake up every day feeling tired even when you have slept? Why does your mind feel heavy before the day has even started? And why does it feel like life is moving forward while you are standing still, watching, waiting, hoping something will change? Because the truth is, most people are not lazy. They are lost. They are disconnected from purpose, trapped between who they are and who they know they could become. And that gap is painful. It drains energy, confidence, and belief. And this is why so many people feel stuck even when they are capable of more. Because without a strong why, effort feels meaningless and discipline feels like punishment. And when there is no clear reason to fight, even small challenges feel overwhelming. But inside you, there is a quiet voice that refuses to be silenced. A voice that knows you were not born just to survive, not born to repeat the same days, not born to waste your potential on fear and comfort. And that voice is asking one simple question: why are you here? Why do you keep going? And why are you still breathing if there is nothing left to build? And the answer is not outside of you. It never was. It is buried beneath doubt, excuses, and disappointment, waiting to be uncovered, because your why is not about motivation. It is about meaning. It is the reason you get up when life knocks you down, the reason you keep pushing when nobody believes in you, and the reason you refuse to quit even when quitting feels easier. And once you reconnect with that why, something changes inside you. Your pain starts to make sense. Your struggle gains direction, and your effort feels purposeful. Because when you know why you are fighting, you can endure almost anything. And this is the moment where everything shifts, where confusion turns into clarity, where fear turns into fuel, and where the version of you that has been hiding steps forward and says, enough is enough. It is time to stop waiting, stop doubting, and start living with intention, discipline, and belief, because your life has meaning, your time is valuable, and your best version is still waiting to be built, starting right now. Taking full responsibility for your life is the most uncomfortable decision you will ever make, and at the same time, it is the most powerful one. Because the moment you stop blaming your past, your parents, your failures, your mistakes, your circumstances, or the people who hurt you, you reclaim control over your future. And many people avoid this step, not because they don't understand it, but because responsibility removes excuses. And excuses are comfortable. Excuses protect the ego. Excuses allow you to stay where you are without guilt. But growth demands honesty, and honesty demands that you look at your life exactly as it is and admit that where you are right now is the result of the choices you made, the habits you repeated, and the standards you accepted. And that truth can sting, but it also sets you free. Because if your choices built this life, then your choices can rebuild it. And that realization is where real power begins. Not power over others, but power over yourself, power over your reactions, your effort, and your direction. Because when you take responsibility, you stop asking why this happened to me and start asking, what am I going to do about it? And that shift changes everything. Suddenly problems become challenges, setbacks become lessons, and pain becomes fuel instead of an excuse to quit. And this is where most people fall behind. They wait for someone to rescue them emotionally, financially, or mentally. They wait for motivation, validation, or luck. But waiting is a slow form of surrender, and life does not reward waiting. It rewards movement, ownership, and courage and responsibility. Is courage. It takes courage to say, I messed up, I wasted time, I chose comfort over growth. But it takes even more courage to say, from today forward, I will not repeat that pattern. Because responsibility is not about self-hate. It is about self-respect. It is about believing that you are capable of more and refusing to treat your potential casually. And when you adopt this mindset, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of life and start seeing yourself as a student of life, learning, adjusting, improving, because even the worst experiences can become teachers if you take responsibility for how you respond to them. And this is where confidence is built, not through words, but through evidence. Evidence that no matter what happens, you will handle it. Because you handled yesterday and the day before that, and every difficult moment that tried to break you but didn't. And as you take responsibility, you will notice something uncomfortable at first. You will feel alone, because blaming connects you to people. Responsibility separates you from excuses, and separation feels lonely. But that loneliness is temporary, because it is the space where discipline grows, where focus sharpens, and where your standards rise. And as your standards rise, your life begins to change. Slowly but surely, you stop tolerating disrespect, you stop wasting time, you stop lying to yourself about effort, and you start doing what needs to be done even when it's hard, even when nobody is watching. And this is where people misunderstand responsibility. They think it is about pressure and stress. But true responsibility actually brings peace. Because when you own your life, you no longer feel powerless. You may feel tired, challenged, and tested, but you don't feel helpless. And helplessness is what breaks people, not difficulty. And once you remove helplessness from your mindset, you become dangerous and the best way, because you stop needing perfect conditions to move forward. You stop needing approval to believe in yourself. You stop needing the past to change before you do. And that is freedom. Freedom built on accountability. Freedom built on truth. Freedom built on effort. And yes, you will still fail. You will still make mistakes. But when you take responsibility, failure no longer defines you, it refines you. Because instead of saying, "This proves I'm not good enough," you say, "This shows me where I need to improve." And improvement becomes your daily mission, not perfection, just progress, just getting better than yesterday. And over time, that commitment compounds into confidence, clarity, and self-belief. And one day you look back and realize the moment your life truly changed was not when things became easy, but when you stopped running from responsibility and started standing in it. Because responsibility did not crush you, it built you, it taught you discipline, resilience, and self-respect. And that is why taking full responsibility for your life is not a burden, it is a gift. A gift that allows you to rise, rebuild, and get up again no matter how many times life tries to knock you down. Discipline is the quiet force that decides the direction of your life long before motivation ever shows up. Because motivation is emotional and temporary, it rises when things feel good and disappears the moment things get hard. But discipline stays when feelings leave. And that is why discipline is stronger than motivation. Because discipline does not ask how you feel, it asks what needs to be done. And most people struggle not because they lack dreams or goals, but because they rely on motivation to carry them. And motivation was never designed to carry weight for long. It was meant to start the engine, not drive the entire journey. And when motivation fades, most people stop. They pause. They negotiate with themselves. They tell themselves tomorrow, and tomorrow turns into weeks, months, and years. And that is how potential quietly dies. Not in one dramatic moment, but through delay and comfort. But discipline interrupts that cycle. Discipline creates structure in chaos, it creates movement in resistance, and it creates progress when nothing else seems to work. Because discipline is built on commitment, not excitement. It is choosing to act even when you feel tired, uninspired, or doubtful. And this choice is what separates those who talk about change from those who actually change. Because disciplined people don't wait to feel ready, they act their way into readiness. They understand that feelings follow action, not the other way around. And once you begin to live this way, your mindset shifts. You stop seeing hard days as reasons to quit and start seeing them as part of the process. And this is where real strength is formed, not when everything is going well, but when you keep showing up on days you want to disappear. And discipline also teaches you patience, because it forces you to accept that meaningful results take time, effort, and repetition. And in a world addicted to instant gratification, discipline feels uncomfortable, even lonely, because it requires you to say no to short-term pleasure in exchange for long-term pride. And most people avoid that trade. They want results without sacrifice, growth without pain, success without consistency. But life doesn't work that way. And once you accept that there are no shortcuts, you stop feeling cheated by the process and start respecting it, because discipline removes illusions. It strips life down to truth. Effort equals progress. Consistency equals growth, and excuses equal stagnation. When you commit to discipline, you also commit to honesty. Honesty about how much work you are really putting in, honesty about the habits that are holding you back, and honesty about the standards you've been avoiding. And this honesty can hurt at first, but it is the pain that heals, because without discipline, even the strongest talent will fade. And with discipline, even average ability can become extraordinary over time. And this is why discipline is not punishment, it is protection. It protects your future from the impulsive decisions of the present. It protects your goals from your moods, and it protects your self-respect from regret, because nothing damages confidence more than knowing you didn't try when you had the chance. And discipline ensures that you try every day, even imperfectly, and over time this effort builds trust with yourself. And self-trust is one of the most powerful forms of confidence, because when you trust yourself to do what you said you would do, you no longer rely on external motivation, praise, or pressure. You become internally driven, and that is freedom. Freedom from mood swings, freedom from procrastination, freedom from excuses. And as this discipline compounds, you begin to notice a shift not just in results, but in identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who hopes to change. You see yourself as someone who does the work. And that identity is hard to break, because disciplined habits create disciplined thinking. Disciplined thinking creates disciplined actions, and disciplined actions create disciplined outcomes. And even when you fail, discipline brings you back faster, because you don't spiral, you don't quit, you reset and continue, understanding that consistency is not about being perfect, it is about being persistent. And this persistence is what carries you through seasons of doubt, boredom, and struggle, because life will test you, it will drain you, it will push you to your limits, but discipline is what keeps you standing when everything else tries to pull you down. And in the end, discipline gives you something no motivation ever can. A life built on effort, structure, and self-respect. A life where you know that no matter how hard it gets, you will show up, do the work, and move forward. Because discipline is not just something you practice, it is something you become. And once you become disciplined, you are no longer controlled by circumstances, emotions, or excuses. You are controlled by purpose, and that is where real power lives. Building an unbreakable mindset does not happen in one dramatic decision or overnight transformation. It is formed slowly through daily improvement, through small choices that seem insignificant in the moment but become life-changing over time, because most people underestimate what consistency can do and overestimate what motivation can do. They look for a sudden breakthrough while ignoring the power of showing up every day and getting just a little better than yesterday. And this is why so many feel stuck. Not because they are incapable, but because they are inconsistent. They try hard for a short period and then disappear when progress feels slow. But growth does not reward intensity without continuity. It rewards persistence, and daily improvement is the language of persistence. It is choosing progress over perfection, choosing effort over excuses, and choosing discipline over comfort. And when you commit to getting better by even 1% each day, you remove pressure and create momentum. Because 1% feels manageable, it feels possible even on hard days, and that is important, because an unbreakable mindset is not built on feeling strong all the time. It is built on continuing even when you feel weak, and daily improvement teaches you how to do that. It trains your mind to focus on what you can control today instead of being overwhelmed by how far you still have to go. And this focus brings clarity. Because clarity comes from action, not thinking. And when you take small actions consistently, your mind starts to trust you. And that trust becomes confidence. Not loud confidence, but quiet confidence. The kind that doesn't need validation because it is backed by effort. And over time, those small improvements stack. They compound in ways you don't notice at first. Your discipline sharpens. Your self-belief strengthens. Your standards rise. And the same challenges that once overwhelmed you start to feel manageable because you have trained your mind to handle resistance. And this training is what makes a mindset unbreakable. Not the absence of problems, but the ability to face them without collapsing. And daily improvement also changes how you view failure, because when progress is measured daily, failure becomes information, not identity. A bad day no longer defines you, it simply shows you where to adjust. And this prevents the mental spiral that destroys so many people. The all or nothing thinking, the self-blame, the quitting after one mistake. Daily improvement teaches patience. It teaches you that growth is uneven, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes invisible, but always happening if you stay consistent. And patience is strength in a world that wants everything instantly. And as you practice daily improvement, you begin to understand that your mind is like a muscle. It grows under tension, not comfort. And every time you push through resistance, every time you do the hard thing instead of the easy thing, you are training mental resilience. And resilience is what allows you to keep moving when motivation disappears. Because motivation will disappear, that is guaranteed. But an unbreakable mindset does not depend on feelings, it depends on habits. And habits are built daily, not occasionally. And this is where most people struggle. They want to change their lives without changing their routines. But daily improvement demands that you examine your routines honestly. How you start your mornings, how you speak to yourself, how you use your time, how you respond to stress. Because mindset is not just what you think, it is what you repeatedly do. And when you improve your actions even slightly each day, your thoughts follow, your self-talk becomes stronger, your expectations rise, and your belief in what is possible expands. And slowly you begin to realize that you are capable of far more than you once believed. Not because someone told you, but because you proved it to yourself through consistent effort, and that proof is powerful. Because belief built on experience is hard to shake, and when life challenges you, and it will, that belief holds you steady. You don't panic, you don't collapse, you don't give up. You adapt and continue because you have trained your mind to move forward step by step. And this mindset also protects you from comparison, because when your focus is on daily improvement, you stop measuring yourself against others and start measuring yourself against who you were yesterday. And that comparison is healthy. It fuels growth instead of insecurity. And as days turn into weeks and weeks into months, the person you once were becomes unrecognizable. Not because of one big achievement, but because of hundreds of small decisions made consistently. And one day you look back and realize that the mindset you once thought was fragile has become solid, grounded, and resilient. Not unbreakable because life is easy, but unbreakable because you learned how to improve, adjust, and continue no matter what. And that is the power of daily improvement. It doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you become. Once your mindset changes, your life has a choice but to follow. Eliminating excuses and becoming mentally immune to negativity is one of the hardest but most freeing transformations a person can make. Because excuses feel safe, they protect you from discomfort, embarrassment, and responsibility. But at the same time, they quietly steal your potential, your time, and your future. And most people don't realize how often they use excuses, because excuses sound reasonable, they sound logical, they sound like explanations. But the truth is, anything that justifies inaction is an excuse, and every excuse delays growth. And when you decide to eliminate excuses, you are not saying life is easy or fair. You are saying that no matter what happens, you will not give your power away. And that decision alone changes your entire mindset. Because instead of asking why this is happening to me, you start asking, what can I do with what I have right now? And that question creates movement. Because progress begins the moment you stop explaining and start executing. And this is where mental strength is built, not by avoiding difficulty, but by facing it without excuses. And as you begin this process, you will notice resistance, not just from life, but from your own mind. Because your mind is used to comfort, it is used to familiar patterns, and when you challenge those patterns, it pushes back, it offers reasons to stop, to delay, to quit. And this is where mental immunity is formed, by recognizing that not every thought deserves your attention, not every opinion deserves your energy, and not every criticism deserves a response. Because the world is full of noise, and if you listen to all of it, you will never hear your own purpose. And most people are not held back by lack of ability, but by mental overload, too many voices, too many opinions, too much comparison. And when you decide to become mentally immune, you stop absorbing everything around you and start filtering it. You understand that people's opinions are shaped by their own experiences, fears, and limitations, and what they say about you often has more to do with them than it does with you. And this understanding brings peace, because you stop trying to prove yourself to people who don't even believe in themselves. And as you eliminate excuses, you also eliminate the need for validation. Because excuses and validation are connected, excuses often exist to explain ourselves to others, but when you stop caring about approval, you stop explaining, you just act. And action silences doubt better than any argument ever could. And over time, this creates a powerful shift in identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who tries when conditions are perfect. You see yourself as someone who shows up regardless, and that identity is dangerous to limitations, because limitations thrive on excuses and fear thrives on opinions. And when you remove those, fear loses its grip. And this doesn't mean negativity disappears from your life. It means negativity no longer controls you. It still exists. People still doubt, criticize, and misunderstand, but it no longer defines your direction or effort, because you understand that negativity is unavoidable, but surrendering to it is optional. And this is where emotional maturity grows. The ability to stay focused in the presence of distraction, to stay disciplined in the presence of doubt, and to stay calm in the presence of criticism. And this maturity creates momentum, because when you stop reacting to everything, you conserve energy, and that energy is redirected into growth, improvement, and execution. And as you build this mental immunity, you will notice that excuses feel weaker, they lose their appeal, because you begin to see them for what they are, lies that delay the life you want to live. And once you see a lie clearly, it loses power. And this clarity also brings honesty. Honesty about your effort, your habits, and your priorities. And honesty can be uncomfortable, but it is also empowering because it shows you exactly where to improve. And improvement becomes your focus instead of defending your current position. And this shift transforms how you handle setbacks. Instead of saying, "This is why I can't continue," you say, "This is what I need to work on." And that mindset keeps you moving forward. Because forward movement is the antidote to negativity. Stagnation gives negativity space to grow, but action suffocates it. And over time, you become resilient. Not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. And strength comes from refusing to let excuses and opinions dictate your choices. And one day you realize that the freedom you were searching for was never outside of you. It was created the moment you stopped making excuses and stopped carrying the weight of negativity that was never yours to begin with. And that freedom allows you to focus, to grow, and to live with intention, undistracted by noise, grounded in purpose, and committed to becoming better every single day. Failure is one of the most misunderstood experiences in life because people are taught to fear it, to avoid it, and to see it as a sign of weakness. But in reality, failure is training, not defeat. And the moment you understand this, your entire relationship with struggle changes. Because instead of seeing failure as proof that you are not good enough, you begin to see it as evidence that you are trying, stretching, and stepping beyond comfort. And growth does not exist without that discomfort. And most people never fail big because they never try big. They stay in safe spaces where failure is unlikely, but so is success. And while that feels comfortable, it slowly drains meaning from life. Because deep down, you know when you are playing small, and that knowledge creates regret. But failure, real failure, carries lessons that success cannot teach. It exposes weaknesses, reveals gaps, and forces adaptation. And this is why every strong person you admire has a history of failure behind them. Not one or two setbacks, but repeated moments of falling short. Because resilience is not built by winning all the time. It is built by standing back up after being knocked down again and again. And this is where the idea of getting up again becomes powerful. Because falling is inevitable. Life will disappoint you. Plans will collapse. People will let you down. And sometimes you will let yourself down. But staying down is a choice. And that choice is what separates those who grow from those who give up. Because when you treat failure as training, you stop personalizing it. You stop saying, "This means I am a failure," and start saying, "This is part of the process." And that shift protects your identity, because your identity should never be tied to a single outcome. It should be tied to your effort, your values, and your willingness to continue. And when your identity is built this way, failure cannot destroy you, it can only shape you. And this perspective also removes fear, because fear thrives on finality, the idea that one mistake will end everything. But when you understand that failure is temporary and informative, fear loses its power. You are willing to take risks, to try again, to push further. And this willingness is where progress lives. And each time you get up again, you gain something valuable: experience, perspective, and mental strength. Because getting up requires humility. It requires you to admit that you didn't get it right and still choose to continue. And humility is not weakness, it is the foundation of growth. Because without humility, you cannot learn. And learning is what turns failure into fuel. And as you move forward with this mindset, you also become more patient with yourself. You stop expecting perfection and start respecting persistence. You understand that setbacks are not signs to stop, but signals to adjust, and adjustment is intelligence in action, and this intelligence builds confidence. Because confidence is not believing you will never fail. Confidence is believing you will handle failure when it comes. And that belief is powerful because it keeps you moving even when results are delayed, and this movement compounds. Over time, the lessons learned from failure stack up, your decision-making improves, your emotional control strengthens, and your resilience deepens, and the things that once overwhelmed you become manageable. Not because life became easier, but because you became more capable. And this capability changes how you see challenges. You no longer see them as threats, but as opportunities to apply what you've learned. And this transforms adversity into advantage. And one of the most important parts of this process is forgiveness. Forgiving yourself for past mistakes, missed opportunities, and poor decisions, because holding on to self-blame keeps you stuck in the past. And failure is only useful when it pushes you forward, not when it chains you to regret. And getting up again means choosing to move forward even when the past still hurts, even when confidence feels low, even when the outcome is uncertain. And that choice builds self-respect, because self-respect comes from knowing that no matter what happens, you will not abandon yourself. And that promise is powerful, because once you trust yourself to get up again, you are no longer afraid of falling. And when you are no longer afraid of falling, you become unstoppable, not because you never fail, but because failure no longer has the authority to stop you. And that is why failure is not the opposite of success. Quitting is. Because success is built on resilience, persistence, and the courage to rise every time life tries to keep you down. And when you live this truth, you stop seeing failure as the end of the story and start seeing it as the chapter that prepares you for what comes next. Understanding that life is precious and time should never be wasted is a realization that usually arrives quietly, often after loss, disappointment, or deep exhaustion, because when you are young or distracted, it feels like time is endless, like there will always be another chance, another year, another moment to get serious. But time is not generous, it is honest. It gives everyone the same 24 hours, and then it moves forward without apology. And the danger is not that time runs out suddenly. The danger is that it slips away slowly while you are waiting, procrastinating, or living on autopilot. And most people do not intentionally waste their lives. They just underestimate the value of ordinary days. They trade them for comfort, distraction, and delay, thinking they will get focused later, but later is not promised. And this is why awareness of time is not meant to scare you. It is meant to wake you up. Because when you truly understand that your days are limited, you stop treating them casually. You become intentional about how you spend your energy, your attention, and your effort. And intention is the foundation of a meaningful life. Because a life without intention is driven by habits you did not choose and influences you did not question. And when you recognize the value of time, you begin to question everything: how you start your mornings, how you speak to yourself, who you allow into your mental space, and what you give your best energy to. Because time is not just about hours, it is about focus. And where your focus goes, your life follows. And this understanding also brings urgency, not panic, but urgency rooted in respect for life. The respect that says, I will not waste today complaining about yesterday or worrying about tomorrow. I will use today to build something, learn something, or become something. And this mindset shifts you from passive living to active living, because you stop waiting for motivation or perfect conditions and start acting with what you have right now. And this action builds momentum, because momentum is created by movement, not intention alone. And as you move, you realize that time rewards consistency, not intensity. A little effort every day over years will outperform extreme effort for a short period. And this is why discipline and time are connected. Discipline is how you honor time. It is how you protect your future from being stolen by distraction and excuses. And when you live this way, you also become more present, because you are no longer rushing through life or numbing yourself to escape it. You are engaged, aware, and purposeful, and presence deepens experience. It allows you to appreciate progress, relationships, and growth. And gratitude grows natural from this presence. Because when you see time as precious, you become grateful for the chance to try again, to improve again, to show up again. And this gratitude fuels resilience, because even on hard days, you recognize that Being alive and able to try is a privilege, not a burden. And this perspective changes how you handle setbacks. Instead of seeing them as wasted time, you see them as part of the journey. Lessons that refine you rather than delays that defeat you. And this keeps you moving forward without bitterness. And understanding the value of time also forces honesty. Honesty about what truly matters. Because when time is limited, you stop chasing everything and start focusing on what aligns with your values and purpose. And this focus simplifies life. It removes unnecessary noise, drama, and comparison, and allows you to invest deeply in growth, contribution, and self-respect. And as you align your actions with this awareness, you begin to live with intention instead of reaction. You choose effort over excuses, growth over comfort, and purpose over approval. And these choices compound. They build a life that feels full, not because it is easy, but because it is meaningful. And one of the most powerful outcomes of respecting time is that you stop postponing courage. You stop saying, one day I will start, one day I will change, one day I will try. And you realize that one day is today, because today is all you ever truly have. And when you embrace this truth, you live differently, you speak more honestly, you act more boldly, you forgive faster, and you commit deeper. Because you understand that regret is not born from failure, but from inaction, and time does not punish mistakes. It punishes hesitation, and this awareness does not make life heavy. It makes it purposeful. It pushes you to get up again after setbacks, to stay consistent when progress feels slow, and to keep improving even when nobody is watching. Because you know that every day used with intention is a day well lived. And in the end, when you respect time, you respect yourself. Because how you spend your days is how you spend your life. And choosing not to waste time is choosing to live fully, consciously, and with the quiet pride that comes from knowing you did your best with what you were given.